What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We're continuing on with our series of preview videos. We're only one day away from the Six Nations kicking off. I'm really excited. We've already done the preview videos for the Wales versus Ireland game and the England versus Scotland game. You can go check those ones out after this one if you want. If you've never seen these preview videos before, this is where we go through the teams that have been announced, give an initial reaction to the players that have been announced. So we think some good picks, some bad picks, maybe go over some tactics we think the teams might implement, and finally give a score prediction. If you enjoy this style of content, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because there's going to be a bunch of Six Nations videos coming out over the next few weeks. So make sure, as always, you drop down in the comments your thoughts on the team, because it's nice to know what you guys have to say as well. Now, I will head this off at the start and say this is the fixture every year, where I no doubt will get a bunch of comments saying that I got names pronounced wrong. Italian and French names pronunciations, not always the best for me. I do try my best to learn. If there's one that I happen to get wrong, feel free to just drop down the phonetic spelling in the comment section. Help myself and some other people watching learn, as opposed to just complaining that I got it wrong. I'll never know how to improve if people don't tell me the right pronunciation, but I will try my best. So Italy going into this game, very exciting. We saw, of course, the win they had in the Six Nations last year against Wales. They went on later in that year to beat Australia, and the big talking point now is, can they get some other big scalps across the Six Nations? France going over to Italy for this game can be very exciting to see how they get on. So the Italian team named, starting off this front row, Fischetti, Nicotera and Ferrari. And this is probably the best front row from the squad that was mentioned. I didn't get around to doing the squad announcement for them. It's a very youthful team this year in terms of Italy. A lot of those under-20s lads that are doing really well in the under-20 Six Nations, under-18 Six Nations for Italy is beginning to progress upwards now. We're seeing the youth. We saw it last year. Younger players getting in, low-cap players are making massive impact. But they have gone for a slightly higher capped sort of team for this one. But I think out of the squad mentioned, this is probably the best way to go in terms of that front row. In the lock department, Canone comes in alongside of Federico Ruzza, who, if you guys were watching the channel last year, got into my team of the week on the Six Nations, I think for 3 weeks out of the 5. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he played so well. I can't remember if I ended up with him in my team of the year at one point, because I think Federico Ruzza playing fantastic. I hope he brings that same energy into this year. Really looking forward to seeing him back in this team. In the back row, Negri comes in alongside of Lomaro and Canone, another Canone in there in the number 8 shirt. Lomaro still as captain. I'm liking him as captain. Every game I see him in, such a calm presence in terms of talking to the referee. Really, we had some big conversations last year we had, of course, that situation where there was a yellow card and an injury at the scrum. They had to lose an extra man in the scrum. Talking to the referee, trying to understand the rules, but getting on with the game. It's so nice to see from them. Negri's also a fantastic player. If you've been watching the Rugby 22 videos we've been doing, we're going to score a lot of tries with Negri. Superb player. 1 to 8. This is a good set of forwards from the Italian pack. I'm looking forward to see how they get on. France, of course, like to bring in their big pack of forwards, so hopefully they'll be able to hold out. We'll have some real big impacts, and hopefully Italy are going to carry on that energy that we saw from last year. In the halfback partnership, Stephen Varney comes in alongside of Tommaso Allan. Of course, Paolo Garbisi out with his injury. I don't believe we'll be sort of getting him back throughout this tournament, so I imagine Tommaso Allan will be starting every game. You might be seeing a bit of bubble wrap around this man. You might not be seeing him wanting to be taking too many hits. There are also a couple of lower capped fly halves in the rest of the squad, but Tommaso Allan is by far the most capped player out of all of them, so I think he'll want to be starting most games. Of course, Callum Brayley retired, I think now, hasn't he? He's actually gone now. So Stephen Varney, probably sort of first choice for a lot of people in terms of that scrum half position. Again, young, low cap player, but he's getting in there. He's got a nice energy about him. Hopefully he can have a good opening game. In the centre partnership, Morisi comes in alongside Brex. Now, one of the big things that I was going to talk about in the video that I never got around to doing, no Zanon named in this Italian squad, and I've not seen an update to say that he's back in, and I've not seen anything to say he's actually out injured. So I don't know why Zanon hasn't got in, because for me, he's been playing very well, Italy. Maybe there's some club level games that have flown under the radar where performance has dropped. They're not seeing the same thing from him. So Morisi gets that inside centre position. But Brex on the outside, just a really good player in terms of just reading defenses. Not only is he actually very good in terms of defense, but he's very good at sort of reading where the pass is going to go, sees whether there's an overlap somewhere, and will actually cut out that middleman and stop that overlap. It's something I really enjoy about seeing him. Looking forward to how he gets on against France. Speed at the back of the ruck, recycling for France, very quick. That ball getting out wide. Someone like Brex who can shut down a man overlap can be very useful to have. So nice to see him in the outside centre there. And then finally in the back three, Menoncello alongside of Bruno and Capuzzo. Angie Capuzzo, of course, coming onto the scene last year with an absolute storm, breakthrough player of the year. Really looking forward to seeing him. Can play wing, can play fullback. Do prefer him in the fullback position, scoring a lot of tries from a fullback position. Counter-attack for him, absolutely fantastic. Great at just finding that room. The wingers have never really settled for Italy. They've always seemed to swap their wingers around a lot. Also no Ioane in the side, which, you know, might be a bit of a knock to them. But Menoncello and Bruno will be trying to make the best of their time against France at home. So this is a good 1-15 Italian team. It was pretty much, I think, guess what we were sort of expecting. The wingers were the only ones that I wasn't entirely sure of who would play where. But this is a good Italian team. I'm looking forward to see how they get on. In terms of the replacements, then Luca Bigi will be coming on in that second half alongside of Federico Zani, which is a name I feel like I've not said in a long time. I don't know if I've actually ever said it on the channel before. I'm not sure if the last time I actually saw him play was before I created this channel. So nice to see him there. And then finally Casarelli in that 18 shirt. Rest of the replacement forwards coming in then. We start off with a name I don't know a lot about. Eduardo Iachisi, I'm going to guess, had a bit of a pronunciation there. Don't be too harsh on me down in the comment section. Don't know a lot about him. Looking forward to seeing him make a nice start into this game at some point. Pettinelli and Zuliani coming into the team. Still quite a low cap player. Still a young lad. There's so much youth in this team. I think Zuliani's 22, I think. So still quite a young lad to get into this team. But Italy going for the 6-2 split. There's ever a show of intention of what this game is going to be, the 6-2 split is the way to see it. Be prepared for a lot of forward action in this game. And then the replacement backs, Alessandro Fusco and Padovani. Padovani's a good pick for me here in terms of that replacement back because, of course, he can play so many positions, has played fullback, has played winger. I feel like you can play him at centre. I feel like at some point I must have seen him play centre. If I think of Padovani, though, I do tend to think of him out on the wing. So we'll see where he comes on in that second half. Fusco in there to bring a bit of energy in that scrum half shirt. So 6-2 split. I guess we're going to be going through the forwards. This one, you might not be seeing it spread as out wide as you want to see. But if you can get those driving wall tries and it wins you the game, hey, you can't complain that much about it. Moving on then to talk about the France team. Now, France are in a really weird position for this game because we've seen it before in the Six Nations. Teams go up against Italy. When it's later on in the series as well, you do sort of see, maybe not quite B teams that they put on for the Italy game, but it's much closer to like a 1.5 team. You know, I don't know how to best sort of describe that. There's a skeleton of the top players, but then also they've added in a couple of new boys, a couple of lesser cap players, get them a bit of time in international. Italy are beginning to step up now. And we've seen it for the last 18 months, how Italy are progressing upwards. They're getting those wins against top-tier nations now. So France have come in, and if you've seen the prediction video, how I've sort of said I feel like the Six Nations could go to Ireland or France in terms of how I think the games will go. This is a game where France can't really afford to not put on like a top-tier team. Because Italy can just come out and potentially steal this game away from you. You're probably looking at wanting to try and get bonus points if you can get it in terms of the tries, because it can come down to points at the end of the tournament. And Italy are coming in completely fresh-faced. So France have actually loaded up with a bit of a mega team for this Italy game, which is nice to see. So starting off in this front row, Cyril Bay goes in along Julien Marchand and Antonio. Now that is a front row we've seen quite a few times now in this French team. It's a powerful front row. They're so good in terms of the jackling. Now, the French front rows are just getting real dangerous in terms of their defensive strategy as well. Julien Marchand and Cyril Bay, both awesome in the breakdown zone. So it's not something you talk about when you talk about props, just getting over for the breakdown. But Cyril Bay is a superb player. Nice to see him in there. In the lock department, Flamand comes in alongside of Paul Valemsa. Cameron Volke isn't in the squad, unfortunately, so the normal switch up between 4 and 5 will take a bit of a mix, but it's nice to see that Flamand gets into the side in that number 4 shirt starting. In the back row, Anthony Jalange takes over in the 6 shirt alongside of Olivant and Gregory Aldrit. This, again, we've seen this a few times. There's been a bit of a mismatch. Olivant was out for a little while from this team. And we sort of saw Jalange moving from 6 to 7. We saw Cross coming in a few times to fill in as well. Dylan Cretin. So to have this, I think this is the best back row for me in terms of the French players. I like this. Anthony Jalonche, I think, flew under the radar a little bit for a lot of people last year. I did have him as a bit of an honourable mention in my team of the year. And Charles Olivon and Greg Audrit, just two mega ball carriers again. Both got speed, both got power. They'll just run the ball directly at them. I think that's a good set of forwards. They obviously know this is going to be a bit of a rough game in terms of the forwards, so they've loaded up heavy on the forwards. In the halfback partnership, Antoine Dupont as captain and Romain Ntamack in that 10 shirt. You know, who else do you expect? I think that's pretty much the standard setup now. Antoine Dupont will be looking forward to get back into the squad. I mean, I think the last time I saw Antoine Dupont play in terms of international, we got red carded in that Springboks game. So hopefully that's a slightly different game in this Italy one, but I'm sure a lot of people will be picking him for the fantasy for those sniping runs we're so used to. In the centre partnership, Mofana comes in alongside of Gaël Ficou. Again, I think this is a good centre partnership. Jonathan Darty, I think, was named out injured. So won't be getting into the squad anytime soon, but Mofana, also a very nice player to have in that centre. Can move out onto the wing if you need him to as well. And then finally in that back three then, on the left wing, a new name for me here, Dumortier. I'm going to have a stab in the dark at the pronunciation. Don't know a lot about him. Looking forward to seeing him in the French shirt to see how he gets on that left wing. A couple of people have been out, unfortunately. I did see the news today about Villiers also gone out as well now. So depth towards that World Cup. Now's the time to start getting new boys in. On the right wing, though, a name most of us will probably know, Damien Penaud. Just fabulous in terms of the amount of tries he scores. Just goes off on his own. Just leave him be, let him score tries. And then finally in that fullback shirt, Thomas Ramos, holding out the fullback. Fullback depth in France is great at the minute, and there are big names not getting into this team. Thomas Ramos also bringing the ability of kicking towards the posts at a very high percentage as we saw last year. So overall, 1 to 15 looking strong from France. I'm looking forward to see what they bring to this opening game of the Six Nations. In terms of the replacements then, we have Barlow, Wardy and Falatea. So a big sort of cap differential between your starting front row and your reserve front row, but looking forward to see how they get on in that second half. In terms of the rest of the replacement forwards then, we have Taufai Fanua, the giant that will get in there in that second half. Thomas Lavol, which I'm going to guess is the pronunciation, apparently does have one cap. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember what game he played last year, but does have one cap with this French team, so we'll have to see how he gets on. And then finally, Sekou Makalu will be going on in that second half. In the 21 shirt, they've also gone for the 6-2 split. Both teams are expecting a big physicality up in front. Of course, Makalu, one of the fun facts about him at this point now is he can also play wing. Got a lower forward who's absolutely happy to be chucked on the wing and plays wing quite well, to be fair. So there's some good courage there. You're playing the 6-2, but you're also playing the 5-3 at the exact same time. What an interesting setup this French team is slowly beginning to build. And then in the replacement backs, we have Le Garac coming in alongside of Matteo Jalibert. So Le Garac coming in here, going to be making his debut at some point. Does have 8 caps with the France under-20s. So used to seeing him in the international team in the under-20s. Matteo Jalibert, of course, trying to get into the scene. Ntamack still taking that fly half shirt away from him. I still feel I'd be leaning towards Ntamack over Jalibert, but he is nice to have on to go on in that second half. He brings a bit of a wildcard element to his style. If he's just going to run himself, chip over the top, he's quite a good distributor, so I do like him coming on in that second half, but it is hard to get in that starting side when you've got someone like Romain Ntamack taking over in the lead. So, in terms of a score prediction then, what do we think was going to happen in this game? Well, it's going to be a forwards battle. You might not be seeing it be very expansive in that opening half because both teams are going for that 6-2 split. Both teams are going to be back in their forwards. Could be a lot of driving balls in this one. Could be a lot of forwards work. You might find the wingers a little bit lax in terms of getting their hands on the ball in the first half. The second half, when players are getting tired, might be where you begin to see it open up. I imagine France will be looking at this game as wanting to get a bonus point in terms of the tries from this one. I think they'll be doing the set gameplay of just go through the forwards, try and kick it towards that 5-meter line, drive more, try, do that as much as you can all day, secure the 4 tries. So I'm going to say a France win. And I'm going to say France to win by 18. I'm going to go with 18, but what do I know, guys? Of course, make sure to drop down your score predictions in the comment section. And of course, we do have the fantasy running alongside. You have one day. All the teams are announced now. Time to get furiously putting your fantasy team in position. I'm going to be doing mine tonight as well. Make sure you are locked in before kick-off tomorrow. I hope you've all enjoyed this one today, guys. Of course, we'll be doing the match reports after the games over the course of the weekend, so make sure you come back to watch those videos. Really looking forward to seeing the Six Nations kick off, and I hope you all are too. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.